Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we're talking about Andor Season 2. The show may have come to an end, but we have some very surprising updates, some new comments from one of the best actresses in the entire series. But first, ahead of the third Jedi game, whenever that releases, there's been a fascinating question making the rounds on social media, and I wanted to address it and give you my take. It's very fitting in light of today's main topic. So the question is this: did Luthen Rael know Cal Kestis? Were the two aware of each other? Did they ever interact? There's a case to be made either way, and a lot of nuance and several considerations too. The implications of either answer are pretty massive, and based on whenever the third game is set, that could dictate quite a significant plot point. Jedi Survivor was set in 9 BBY, and if the third game comes closer to Andor Season 2, there is a chance Cassian, Kleya, or Luthen could have a run-in with Cal, or maybe even Ahsoka.
Your mission was to be unseen.
If Luthen did come across Ahsoka, it would have been in between Andor Seasons 1 and 2. She was Fulcrum at the time. But in regards to Cal Kestis, the possible relationship he has with Luthen is a bit different, and Star Wars fans are pretty divided about this question. Some say that because Cal Kestis knew Saw Gerrera, who knew Luthen, maybe the two characters heard about each other through him, or maybe Luthen did know Cal and chose not to interact with him because he's a Jedi. And as we know guys, before his death, Luthen wanted Axis-Sol to remain as low-key as possible. Maybe he was intimidated by Cal's status, the fact he was wanted by the Empire, and also the chance of being ratted out. Or maybe Luthen assumes that any surviving Jedi would disagree with his approach, the radical ways in which he wanted to take down the Empire. But then again, Cal knew Saw Gerrera, who was more extreme. But I think the best argument to be made for why Luthen doesn't want anything to do with Cal Kestis is because of his notoriety as a Jedi. Luthen tried to avoid any unnecessary attention, and often he was overly cautious. In Andor, the primary villains are ISB agents and stormtroopers. Those are dangerous, but nowhere near as dangerous as the forces that would be sent for Cal. So even if Luthen knew about the survivors, whether that be Kanan, Ahsoka, Cal, he understands their high priority targets. Just being near one guarantees not only lots of Imperial attention, but high level Imperial attention. Inquisitors, possibly Vader himself, more KX units, and even Purge troopers. But I think the most interesting possibility is if the game is set adjacent to Andor Season 2. Some fans think it'll take place in 4 BBY. If that's the case, maybe Cal bumps into Kleya. But it's also dependent on Cal himself. There are some Fallen Order fans who think Cal is going to undergo a massive transformation, because he has been flirting with the dark side towards the end of Survivor, and he has changed quite a bit. I don't think he's going to fully turn to the dark side, but I do think we're in for another radical evolution.
Go on, Jedi. Do it.
I know you are in pain, but this is not you!
After the second game, there's no denying he is more battle-hardened. But based on when the third one is set, do you guys think there's a chance Luthen makes a cameo? I would love to know your thoughts. But now my friends, moving on to the main topic of the day. In a rare new interview, Kleya Marki actress Elizabeth Dulau shared some very surprising behind-the-scenes secrets of Andor Season 2. It's the deepest she's ever publicly reflected on the show, and I could honestly listen to her talk all day. She's a very profound person, she talks with a lot of eloquence and purpose. It's so great to see someone so invested in their character and the franchise, because tons of Star Wars actors just don't really care. They just give very vague responses, which is fine. I mean, they're just there to do their job. But considering how dedicated Andor fans are, it's great when actors go the extra mile. And so talking about her experience as Luthen Rael's closest confidant, we learnt some unexpected new insights. I'm going to begin with the most surprising thing she said. In talking about her favourite monologue from the show, she didn't choose one of the obvious ones. She didn't say Luthen's monologue from the first season, she didn't choose Mon Mothma's Senate speech, nor did she select Saw Gerrera's Rhydonium-filled ramble. Instead, Elizabeth says Perrin's speech from Leader's wedding is her favourite. The main reason being it's one of Andor's most humanizing moments, especially with Perrin's focus on joy, probably one of the most important things to find in life. The speech was a father preparing his daughter for the realities of marriage, the good and the bad, that some days will be harder than others, and general difficulty will befall them, no matter how hard they try, and this is something he could relate to in his marriage to Mon. But it wasn't a fairy tale princess version of events. It was the human reality that there will be tough times ahead, but you have to focus on the little moments, the moments of joy. I thought it was a very interesting choice. Elizabeth says it stood out to her, and that's quite surprising given the character she played. It doesn't seem very Kleya-like. the coordinator and very much the brains of the Axis group, and definitely the ears. Luthen's serious-faced ally and the key reason the Rebel Alliance learns about the Death Star and Galen Erso. She also goes on to discuss her favourite moments from Season 2, and something that we actually have in common is our favourite episode, Episode 10, the first of the 3-part finale, which contained flashbacks to Luthen. We learnt his real name was Sergeant Leia, and how he met Kleya. And during the interview, Dulau points to a really crucial line that was sorely overlooked. In the flashback where the two were on Naboo, they were going to cause quite an explosive disruption. The dialogue is some of the most important of the entire season, hands down. Some fans thought this scene was fan service, you know, the poetry of Luthen being on Palpatine's home planet, but I don't think so. The main reason that scene was included was the lesson Luthen teaches Kleya, which is one that she remembers just before she kills him. And the line that stuck with Elizabeth is, quote, "Life shows us what we stand to lose." It's extremely powerful because it carries a lot of weight to it coming from Luthen, a character who embodies the tension between idealism and ruthless pragmatism. It's about attachment and the cost of rebellion. Luthen is telling Kleya, and indirectly the audience, that life itself, through relationships, freedom, hope, and loss, reveals what's valuable to us. The more you live, the more you don't want to lose. And the relationships in Andor make this more poignant. It's about the pieces of yourself you want to preserve and what you want to fight for, and the Empire's cruelty weaponizes that. This line is doubly tragic when you consider what Luthen spoke about in his first monologue. Luthen chose his fate. He knew what he was sacrificing, a sunrise he would help to build, but would never witness. It's similar to what Saw Gerrera told Wilmon. Here we are, cannon fodder, unloved. We'll be dead before the Republic returns, and yet, here we are. It's about choosing your path and committing yourself. No going back. Luthen was preparing Kleya, who was still very young and maybe still had doubts. Life gives you something to fight for, but it also gives the Empire leverage. In a way, the quote is existential. The line reflects a universal truth. To live is to risk loss. You can't truly value something until you recognize how easily the Empire can take it from you. And for the rebellion, whichever rebel cell, whichever faction, it gave their fights meaning. And speaking of sacrifice, Elizabeth reveals something pretty insane that nobody knew until this interview. If you want to know just how amazing an actress she is, after Luthen's sacrifice when she's watching him being escorted to the hospital, did you know she wasn't seeing what we can see? She filmed that scene in isolation, acting to a tennis ball on a stick. I mean, given the circumstances, that is pretty amazing. You can see on her face that she's calculating the terrible cost of what she has to do, and that's when she remembers Luthen's famous words on Naboo. For preservation of the rebellion, she had to kill the person who'd been a father figure to her. But all of those emotions were filmed without visual stimulus. I must admit, I'm blown away. And keep in mind, this is her first major acting credit. Nina Gold, the casting director, did a fantastic job, and so many of the cast have their origins in theatre. I love when we have tidbits like this, and you guys know, I could talk about Luthen and Kleya all day. But that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. I love days like this where we can talk about Andor again. It is my favourite Disney Plus show. If you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.